but today was about playing with the anchors that we have in practice. Anchors are anything that your attention is held on. And I gave you three of the most common ones because I wanted you to see which ones kind of felt most natural to you. And so we started with the breath. We started zoomed in or kind of a focused position with the breath. And then we took that space out a bit wider to incorporate the body. And so I had you scan openly, feel whatever sensations the body wanted to show you in this moment. Then I had you narrow that down by specifically scanning from head to toe and then toe to head, playing with the way the attention can zoom in and zoom out, in addition to what it's focused on. And then we moved from that out even further to sounds and noticing the relationship that sounds have, the way you receive them, in the same way you receive the breath. And along the way, I asked you to pay attention to the preferences you had towards any of what was coming up and the way that your mind was kind of taking the practice in. And so those were kind of the three big points that I wanted you to notice and their relationships to each other, that they all intertwine with one another. And so the thoughts that we're thinking, the information we're receiving is then flowing out into our breath and into our bodies and vice versa. So all of those things can help us to relieve stress and to bring a bit of ease in a world currently full of chaos. So that was the practice, walking you through various meditation techniques that you can use to continue or to create your first practice. So, whether this is your first class or your 100th, the work is kind of the same. It's a time for introspection, for slowing down and sitting with all of the things that come up when we slow down and sit with ourselves. And so, first things first, I alluded to this earlier as folks joined, make sure you have a good posture that you can breathe well in. So whether that's lying down or seated, either position is fine by me. I just need you to be able to breathe well and hold your attention in the space. From there, I ask you to put your hands somewhere where they're not kind of moving all over the place. Let them rest by your side. Let them rest in your lap. Collapse them or bring them together, kind of folded in on one another if that feels good for you. And then we decide where we're going to set our vision, where we're going to go, the direction we're headed. So you can keep the eyes open or closed, whatever feels safe and comfortable to you. If you're going to keep the eyes open, fix them on a spot slightly out in front of you that doesn't move a lot so you don't end up being distracted by your eyes chasing something. That's the cue to kind of tell the body what we're doing here. And what we're doing is being a good witness to the stuff that comes up in our field of attention. Today's practice, I'm going to take us through a bit of work within the breath, the body. We might touch on sounds a little bit. All of these are their own anchors in their own right to connecting you to practice. Part of the ways that a meditation practice can help us manage the stress and the chaos of our lives is to get us comfortable with witnessing and watching it all, not necessarily reacting to it, passing judgment about it, or deciding things need to be a certain way. It's in learning to sit in the space when things get this uncomfortable that we can learn how to interact with them differently. So just kind of notice right now, generally speaking, the sounds that you're hearing. Obviously, one of them is my voice. What you brought into practice with you today. I like to call that your general feeling tone that you set on the mat with. Right? All of us have different days. So, what are you bringing into practice? Notice how your breath is naturally moving. And then make note to the quality of your thinking. Neutral, helpful, or unhelpful are terms I like to describe the way my thoughts can sometimes be. The goal for us today is to witness whatever we're holding our attention on. It isn't to get rid of it or to change it or to make it go away. The most natural thing you might be feeling in this moment is the breath. So let your attention begin to float towards that, to notice how you're breathing, to notice where you're breathing, and to notice the pace in which you're breathing. By the nature of simply witnessing the breath, we can sometimes begin to interact with it, and that's okay as long as we're not overly focused on controlling it, trying to make it something or make it behave in some way that makes things okay. It is okay for the breath to show up just as it is. There's an entire cycle of breath that's taking place, and I want you to see if you can follow it from its origin point all the way till its final completion. So notice the next breath that comes in. Notice the way that the body naturally pauses at the top of that breath. Notice the way the body releases the breath, and that there's a pause at the bottom of that release, right before the cycle starts all over again. See if you can hold your attention on this cycle of in, pause, out, pause, and repeat. The moment you begin to lock your attention on any one of the anchors that we use, we create a condition for the mind to wander, to start to slip into thoughts of the day or am I doing this right or whatever other story pattern might be appearing. And if you notice that occurring for you, then that is mindfulness unfolding. The goal here is to recognize that, acknowledge it, and then return back to where your focus was being held originally. No stories, no fluff, no judgment. Just start again. In observing the breath, you come to see that no two breaths are exactly the same. They kind of naturally arise on their own. No, nothing's required of you to get it. It's a gift that you receive in each changing moment. And while the process for holding our attention here on this cycle of the way our breath is moving is simple in nature, it does not make it easy. And this is where we call it a practice. We work and we return to different conditions each time. And we bring the balance and the equanimity to what arises. Our attention now has kind of been held at the up to this point like a spotlight. And now I'm going to ask you to broaden it much, much wider and to allow it to move from focusing on the breath to feeling the sensations that are coming up in the body. In opening up your attention this way, I'm asking you to welcome in just what you feel in your body. And that's naturally noticing the parts of your body that show up in the form of sensation. If you're seated, that could be your feet touching the floor with your hands in your lap as a prominent sensation. If you're lying down, it's the weight of your body and the surface that's holding you. If you work with tension or pain in your body, it can even be one of those parts. And in letting the light of your non judgmental awareness shine, notice the rhythm of those sensations that are coming and going. The breath moving here is part of the sensation, even though you're not succinctly focused on that. It's still moving in the space of your body, so you feel it. This is about the time in the practice where we also start to notice where our preferences show up. If you find yourself working with that in practice today, just be mindful of it, that it's happening. You don't have to play into it or try to make it go away. Just notice where you're wanting something to stay or wishing something to go. You can notice here that there's also spaces where you're not feeling as much sensation. Typically, when we kind of open our attention to noticing the sensations that are present, it's isolated in certain spots. And then there's whole other spaces that maybe you don't feel like they're online. One of the ways that we can move our attention differently is to scan the body systematically versus being in this just open awareness where your attention pings back and forth. And so, in the same way you spotlighted your breath, spotlight the body a bit more, starting with the crown of the head and letting your attention move down through the head, the face, the ears, and the neck, scanning for sensations, pressure, temperature, texture, absence of sensation, moving into the shoulders, the right and left arms, the right and left hands, your torso, front and back, your hips, both of the legs, both feet, feeling free to move through that sequence from head to toe or from your toes to your head. And paying attention to the breath and to the body this way, we come to see these objects that seem like they are never changing in some cases, that there is a constant energy moving through them. A reminder in our body and in this moment that as fixed as things may seem, there's always an energy moving through them. that even in moments of discomfort, there are pockets of relief present. They just might not be present all the time. As you're resting with the body and focusing the attention through the body and through the breath, notice the way your thinking patterns influence what you feel and how you breathe. And recognizing the relationship between the thoughts to the body to the breath, you find that they all become pointers and levers to healing one another. Change the thought, change the pattern of the breath, the sensations alter, vice versa. Lastly, moving the intention even further out beyond the body and the breath. Open your attention to the sounds around you. In the way that I just described the thoughts impacting the breath and the body, notice too how sounds in the practice arise in those same places. Noticing the sounds that are nearest to you in the room that you're in. Obviously, my voice is one of said sounds, but the hum of an appliance or a piece of electronic equipment, or the noise from a room next door, in your hallway, or outside of the window. With the eyes closed, you receive the sounds, and they might be external, but notice how they feel right in your space with your breath and with your thoughts, with your body. There is no there's no correct anchor to hold our attention in this moment. I've shown you a couple of the available ones, and all of them vary in how they're used and as a matter of preference. Just taking this time in practice to let your attention stay with the one that felt most natural to you. To notice it, to notice when you stray away from it, to notice any story you give to it. This ability to pause and witness ourselves in this way, when cultivated over time, can help us to gain perspective over the moments that are arising, to give us a little bit of space from being a part of what arises to being a witness to what arises, to stepping back and noticing the space available to hold all parts of you and hold all parts of the moment. Allow your attention to come back to feeling the breath, to where we all started. Taking a moment to acknowledge your current feeling tone in the same way that I had you check in when practice started. Notice where you are as we begin to draw practice to a close. As we begin to close out practice, consider how we exit the practice, how we put it down. Allow yourself a bit of time, space to notice what came up for you, how you handled it, any wisdom that your body or mind shared with you. Before you begin to wiggle the hands and toes, maybe to kind of put some energy into the body, and gently let the eyes open when you're ready.